There is a quiet pattern that repeats itself across time, cultures, and inner landscapes, a pattern rarely named, yet deeply felt by those who carry it. It begins early, often without explanation, a sense that the world moves at a rhythm slightly out of sync with your own. Conversations feel thin even when they are polite. Social spaces feel loud even when they are silent. You observe more than you participate, not because you are afraid to belong, but because something inside you refuses to move on the surface. This pattern is not accidental. It emerges in people whose inner awareness matures faster than their environment. While others learn how to fit in, you learn how to see through. While many chase connection through similarity, you begin noticing subtleties, tone shifts, unspoken intentions, emotional undercurrents that pass unnoticed by most. You don't simply hear words, you feel the space behind them. And that sensitivity slowly reshapes how you relate to others. What often goes unspoken is that society quietly rewards conformity. Belonging is easiest when one mirrors what is already accepted. But individuals with deeper perception instinctively resist this, not through rebellion but through authenticity. They cannot pretend interest where none exists. They cannot maintain shallow bonds for comfort alone. Their inner compass rejects what feels false, even when that rejection leads to solitude. Over time, this creates a strange tension. You begin to notice that many relationships operate on unspoken agreements, shared distractions, shared beliefs, shared avoidance of deeper questions. When you no longer participate in those unspoken rules, distance forms naturally, not as rejection but as divergence. It is not that others exclude you, it is that your presence quietly exposes layers they are not ready to face. There is also a heightened sensitivity at work, a deeper emotional radar. You sense when conversations are performative, when laughter masks insecurity, when connection is transactional rather than sincere. This awareness can be exhausting. It makes casual interaction feel heavy and superficial engagement unsatisfying. Over time, you may withdraw, not out of fear but out of discernment. This is where many misunderstand themselves. They interpret their solitude as a flaw, a social failure, or evidence of emotional deficiency. In truth, it is often the opposite. Depth naturally limits quantity. When perception expands, tolerance for emptiness shrinks. You begin to crave meaning over noise, presence over proximity, truth over comfort. Throughout history, those who saw beyond the surface were often the ones who walked alone. Philosophers, mystics, visionaries, not because they rejected humanity, but because their inner world required space to breathe. Their solitude was not abandonment, it was alignment, a necessary distance that allowed their understanding to mature. This pattern still exists today, quietly unfolding in people who feel different without knowing why. They are not broken. They are tuned to subtler frequencies. Their loneliness is not a punishment, but a signpost, pointing toward a deeper relationship with themselves and with reality itself. When you begin to see this, something shifts. Isolation stops feeling like a verdict and starts to resemble an invitation to explore the depth of your own awareness, to understand why superficial bonds fall away, and to recognize that rarity often travels alone before it finds its true resonance. There comes a moment when the mind begins to notice a quiet contradiction. The more aware you become, the harder it is to remain comfortable within ordinary connections. This realization doesn't arrive loudly. It appears slowly, like a subtle disturbance beneath familiar thoughts. You start sensing that the things most people chase no longer pull you in the same way. Conversations that once felt engaging now feel repetitive. Shared interests begin to feel scripted. And without intending to, you start standing slightly outside the rhythm of the crowd. This is where confusion often begins. You may ask yourself why connection feels harder instead of easier. Why, as your understanding deepens, your circle narrows. The instinctive conclusion is often self-blame, that something is wrong, that something must be fixed. But the deeper truth is more unsettling. Awareness reshapes belonging. When perception sharpens, illusion becomes harder to tolerate. And when illusion falls away, so do many of the bonds built upon it. There is an uncomfortable honesty that comes with inner growth. You start recognizing emotional patterns in others, the need for validation, the fear of silence, the desire to be seen without being known. You begin to sense when conversations are performances rather than exchanges. This awareness creates friction, not because you judge others, but because you can no longer unsee what is happening beneath the surface. At this stage, loneliness does not come from absence of people, but from excess of clarity. You feel the distance between what is said and what is meant. You notice how often connection is used to avoid stillness rather than to deepen understanding. And once this awareness awakens, returning to unconscious interaction becomes nearly impossible. This is the paradox few speak about. Growth can isolate before it integrates. As perception expands, belonging temporarily contracts. The world feels louder, faster, more chaotic, while you move in the opposite direction toward depth, quiet, and meaning. The mismatch creates tension, and that tension can feel like isolation. Yet this phase is not a dead end. It is a threshold, a space where old ways of relating dissolve so new ones can form. Many people retreat at this point, fearing the discomfort. But those who stay with it begin to recognize something profound. The distance they feel from others is not emptiness, but a clearing. A necessary space where authenticity begins to take root. In this space, you are no longer defined by approval or rejection. You begin to sense your own inner gravity, a grounded presence that does not depend on constant connection. And as this stabilizes, something shifts. You stop searching for belonging in crowds and start recognizing resonance when it appears. This is the quiet turning point. The moment where loneliness transforms from a wound into a signal. A signal that you are no longer moving with the current, but learning to navigate by an inner compass. And once that compass awakens, your path will never again look ordinary, nor will it need to. At a certain point, something deeper begins to reveal itself, not as a sudden revelation, but as a slow, undeniable understanding. You start to see that what you once labeled as loneliness was never about lacking people. It was about standing at a different level of awareness. This is the core insight most never reach, because it requires honesty that is both uncomfortable and liberating. When awareness deepens, your inner world expands. Thoughts become more layered. Emotions gain texture. Silence stops being empty and starts carrying information. You begin to notice that most human connection is built not on truth, but on emotional survival, on being accepted, being validated, being reflected back in familiar ways. And when your inner world no longer depends on those mechanisms, the entire structure of social life looks different. This is where many feel the quiet shock, the realization that most people do not actually want to be seen. They want to be comforted. They want reassurance, not depth. When someone arrives who sees beneath appearances, it can feel threatening rather than connecting. Depth exposes, awareness reflects, and not everyone is ready to look into that mirror. Those who walk this path often develop a different relationship with solitude. It stops feeling like absence and begins to feel like clarity. In solitude, the mind untangles itself from borrowed identities. You are no longer reacting to expectations, trends, or emotional currents. Instead, you begin to hear your own internal rhythm, steady, grounded, uncompromised. This is why people with rare inner traits often experience a sense of separation, even when surrounded by others. They're not disconnected from humanity. They are simply less entangled in its illusions. Their perception has moved beyond surface narratives into something more essential. And once that shift happens, returning to unconscious participation becomes nearly impossible. There is also a subtle responsibility that comes with this level of awareness. Seeing clearly means feeling deeply. You become more sensitive to truth and falsehood, sincerity and performance. This can be heavy, but it is also powerful. It allows you to move through life with intention rather than impulse, with discernment rather than distraction. At this stage, solitude transforms into something sacred. It becomes a space of alignment rather than isolation, a place where insight matures, where inner stability forms, and where identity is no longer borrowed from the outside world. What once felt like distance reveals itself as depth. This is the turning point many never reach. The moment you realize that your difference is not a flaw to be corrected, but a signal of inner evolution. A sign that your consciousness has begun to operate on a quieter, deeper frequency. And from that place, the world no longer feels empty. It feels vast, intentional, and alive with meaning, waiting to be understood. If you have ever felt the quiet weight of being unseen in a room full of people, you are intimately familiar with what it means to walk this path. This is not a rare thought. It is a reality experienced by those who carry depth beyond the ordinary. You have likely asked yourself why, despite your efforts, relationships feel fleeting, conversations shallow, or the company of others somehow unfulfilling. The truth is, this is not a failure of connection. It is a reflection of the magnitude of your awareness. Many people spend their lives moving between others, collecting interactions as if they were trophies. But you notice the subtleties behind the gestures, the intentions beneath the smiles, and the silences between the words. You feel the emotional weight others carry silently, and the unspoken patterns guiding their choices. This ability to perceive what is hidden often separates you from the crowd, not as punishment, but as a natural consequence of your depth. There is a vulnerability here that is rarely acknowledged. To feel so much, to see so clearly can be exhausting. Moments of isolation are not empty, they are charged with awareness. And yet, in that intensity there is a hidden beauty. In solitude, you are not diminished, you are refined. You are learning the language of yourself, the architecture of your inner world, and the mechanics of thought and feeling that shape every human interaction. This is why the human connection, when it finally resonates, becomes profound. When someone meets you not at the surface, but within the depth of your perception, it is transformative. That connection is rare, but it is also infinitely more meaningful than any fleeting companionship. It validates the subtle ways in which your awareness perceives the world, and it affirms that your solitude has been preparation rather than punishment. In these moments, the pain of past isolation is reframed. You begin to see that each step, each withdrawal, each period of quiet reflection has been a necessary part of your journey. You are not disconnected. You are in alignment with the depth of your being. The loneliness was not a void to be filled, it was a space for insight, growth, and eventual resonance with those few who truly understand. So if you have ever wondered why friendships are rare, or why you feel different, know this: you are not failing at life or at connection. You are experiencing the profound side effect of perception, clarity, and sensitivity. And in this human moment, you realize that what seems like distance is actually preparation, a refining of your inner world, so that when authentic connection arrives, it is not only possible, but extraordinary. The path you walk is not meant to be easy, nor is it meant to mirror the lives of those around you. The solitude you experience is an invitation, a quiet call to awaken to dimensions of yourself that remain hidden beneath ordinary distraction. It asks you not to run from being alone, but to lean into it, to observe, to feel, and to understand the currents of your inner world with patience and clarity. In this space, you are learning something essential. Connection is not simply a matter of proximity, but of resonance. Awakening begins with recognition, recognizing that your awareness operates differently, that your perceptions carry a depth others rarely reach. Recognizing that your sensitivity is not weakness, but a gift. Recognizing that your solitude is a crucible, refining your perception, your discernment, and your understanding of what truly matters. When you embrace this, the world begins to shift around you. Interactions are no longer drains or obligations. They become opportunities for authentic exchange, for the recognition of those who truly see you, not just superficially, but deeply. This is not a dramatic call to action. It is subtle, almost imperceptible. It asks you to align with your own frequency, to cultivate clarity, to respect the rhythm of your inner life before seeking external validation. It asks you to practice patience with the unfolding of relationships, knowing that those who are meant to accompany you will appear when your own awareness is steady and clear. It is an inward journey that precedes outward harmony, a mystical discipline of presence, observation, and attunement. You are invited to watch without judgment, to feel without resistance, and to understand without needing immediate resolution. Each moment of solitude is a lesson. Each observation is a mirror. Each pause in interaction is a doorway into understanding your own inner architecture and the hidden patterns shaping those around you. By answering this quiet call, you cultivate a power few ever recognize, the ability to navigate life with awareness, intentionality, and a subtle mastery over the invisible currents of human experience. Ultimately, this awakening is not about isolation. It is about alignment, a profound synchronization with your inner compass. When you answer it, you stop seeking validation where it cannot exist, and instead, you begin to perceive the rare, authentic connections that are waiting for you. These connections are fewer, but they are infinitely richer. They are not born from convenience or habit, but from a meeting of depth and understanding. By embracing the call to awaken, you step into a way of being that honors your awareness, respects your depth, and prepares you for the relationships and experiences that truly matter. Some truths reveal themselves only in silence. The path of solitude, once heavy and confusing, gradually becomes a quiet companion, a teacher that shows you the shape of your own awareness. Those who have no friends, who feel apart from the ordinary, are often not lost. They are walking a path few can see, a path that moves beneath the noise of everyday life and into the hidden architecture of existence itself. Their journey is not punishment, it is refinement. It is the shaping of perception, the cultivation of discernment, and the awakening to subtleties that most never notice. In the stillness, you begin to understand that rarity is a signal, not a flaw. To feel deeply, to perceive beyond the obvious, to notice the invisible currents that shape human thought and emotion. These traits naturally separate you from those whose perception does not extend as far. And yet, this separation is not a void. It is a clearing, a space where clarity emerges and where authentic connection can eventually arrive. The silence that once felt heavy now carries meaning. The absence of ordinary companionship becomes a canvas for insight, reflection, and growth. As the journey continues, the understanding dawns that the world itself is layered. Many walk through it asleep, moving from one distraction to another. But those who perceive more, who feel more, who question more, are preparing themselves for encounters and connections that resonate on a level deeper than social habit or superficial affinity. And when these connections appear, they are rare, profound, and transformative, offering validation not through proximity, but through recognition. In the end, the cycle comes full circle. What seemed like isolation reveals itself as alignment. What seemed like absence reveals itself as insight. And what once felt like a burden reveals itself as the hidden gift of perception, depth, and understanding. The world may still appear chaotic, and many will continue to move without awareness, but you, walking this rarer path, carry a silent wisdom. And in that quiet knowing, you find that being alone was never the problem. It was always the preparation for something far greater.